I don't come that often.
What's that? Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very nice chesed, really. You never know. You know, you get up there, you say what you say, and you hope that it falls. It's received well. That's what you do. Actually, it's not me. It's right. Moshe's. It's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Whatever you say. Anyway, again, once more, Daniela, thank you. Torah Mitzion, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you all for putting up with me for another round. It's just so much fun. And these lectures, like a shiluv between teaching and tour guiding, the more I do it, it gets more and more fun. And there's constantly things like, I'm going back now. I started again teaching in Shalavim for women. So I started a Bekias course. I started again doing, we're going to finish up the Vim Rishonim this semester. And as I'm going through the stories again, it's like, this is fantastic, and I have to. There's just so much more to learn to go through it again. So, okay, we're gonna this time we're gonna take a tour around. We've done in the past cases in which we have cryptic psukim that we explain by coming to the sites, and there's other times we had cryptic sites and the psukim helped us understand it. Here it's going to be a little bit of really of going in harmony, step by step, along with the trying to explain. What happened in Sefer Yehoshua. It's going to be based upon a shiur or articles that are written by Yehuda Elitzur, which will introduce him shortly. So let's begin. We have a lot to accomplish today, and we got to keep an eye on the clock. All right, so I couldn't resist. And some places, those of you who have been here all along, certain things we'll go through quickly because it's just for those who aren't here. I just want to reintroduce, and those who have seen it, we'll move along very quickly. I couldn't help myself, just such a beautiful picture, and you'd never guess where this is, but I'll make it easier. Beautiful picture. Part of it's green, one side's green, one side is completely arid, and you're going to find that often when you leave Yerushalayim on the way down towards the Dead Sea. You're going to see that all along the road towards Ma'ale Adumim, which are right outside Yerushalayim. Isn't that beautiful? We could just sit here for the next 45 minutes looking at these pictures. It's just beautiful. This is the land Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us. We are right next to, anybody? Mitzpeh Yericho. All right, we're at Mitzpeh Yericho, famous for the chuppah. And you can see right below, why am I starting over here? Because from Mitzpeh Yericho, if you're driving, next time you drive down towards Ma'ale Adumim or towards Yam HaMelach, it does pay, mind your way now, it does pay to just pull into Mitzpeh Yericho, and you have such a gorgeous view from the mitzpah. There's different spots, but you see from the mitzpah down, you're still on the hills, Midbar Yehuda, and you're going to see in front of you, it's Mitzpeh Yericho. That means it looks out onto Yericho. Here's Yericho right below us. If you get a good picture again, what we have over here is going to be Harei Moav, Harei Moav, the state of Jordan of today, but this would be called Arvot Moab, the plains of Moab. So much of the Torah takes place. Right, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Arvot Moab Leimor. It's taking place over here. Jewish people are parked over here on Arvot Moab. We're going to have the Jordan River in between. Today that's the international border. And then we come over into Arvot Yericho. Yericho right below us. Just starting off over here because that's actually the starting point for, right? Jewish people came up along the King's Highway in Jordan. Moshe Har Nevo is right about over here, and then people are in Arvot Moab. They cross over, and that's our entry point into Eretz Yisrael, as we all know from Sefer Yehoshua. So this is why I'm starting here. It's the introduction to Sefer Yehoshua. You could look at Sefer Yehoshua, and this I'm finding more and more as you go. What do we say? Lo bar shamayim hi? Right? It's not. If you go over things enough time, you'll find that. Is this in your way? Is this in your way, sir? Okay. Yeah. You'll find more and more. You'll see that. After you go through things more and more times, it shrinks. It becomes much more manageable. Sefer Yehoshua is not all that long. It's 24 prakim, and you can really divide it into. We enter into the land. That's that whole story of crossing over the Jordan, the Battle of Yericho, the Battle of Ai, which we'll talk about. At this point, these cities we picked off because they stood alone. Yericho stood by itself. We picked them off. Ai stood by itself, got picked off. At that point, you had two options. What's your two options? The Jewish people are invincible. What are you going to do? Either you're going to make peace, such as the Givonites. They make peace, but nothing much has changed in this part of the world. If you come and make peace with the Jewish people, what happens? The rest of the world will come, or today the Arabs. In that case, the 5 Amorite kings are going to attack Givon for making peace with the Jewish people. So Yehoshua has to fight against these Amorite kings. And then you see, though, that either you make peace or you have to set up an alliance. Because nobody could go against the Jewish people alone. That's why the next 2 battles that are recorded is going to be the Northern Alliance, headed by Chatzor, as usual. We talked about Chatzor last time as being one of those who controlled the area. They were wealthy. They controlled the pass at Chatzor. And then there's the Southern Alliance, and that's about it. Parcel out the tribal lands and final address of Yehoshua. I'm mentioning this because we're going to see that Sefer Yehoshua is not a history book. It's a nevuah. It's a navi. But it does have some, very basically, it does explain to us a number of the battles, and we learn from them. And again, because it's not a history book, it doesn't go into that many details, but you probably, if you read between the lines, you could get a feel of what was going on and also what was the military strategy of Yehoshua ben Nun when he came to Eretz Yisrael to conquer the land. And that's what the shir is going to be about. What was that military strategy? So let us begin like this. We're going to start, right? How do you say that? Tissot? Is that correct? Anybody know French? Tissot. And we're all familiar with the Battle of Yericho. What's fascinating about Yericho, this woman, Kathleen Kenyon, she's known to us both for her excavations in Yericho, but look familiar? Probably looks familiar to everybody, but where is it? This is Area G down at Ir David. Yeah, you sit over here, we stare at this, and they talk about the standard 4-room Israelite home. So she's famous for having first done excavations over here, finding the Canaanite gates, or the Jebusite, Yevusi gates into the Ir David. And we talked about this once, we talked about David HaMelech getting into the city. That's what she's famous for, but she's also famous, she became famous internationally, when in the early 1950s, she traveled to a place, right, this little tell, right? Tell means it was a little bit of a rise in the ground, but it usually takes on a trapezoidal look because a lot of its height becomes a lot from cities being destroyed, rebuilt, and everything just keeps moving upwards. This tell was originally called Tel El Sultan, but we know it as Tel Yericho. So she got to Yericho. Everyone was always looking for the walls of Yericho. And they finally found it. She found it, early 1950s. This is part of the sections that they date back millennia. And these are going to be part of the walls that were built to protect Yericho against any enemy. But eventually they succumbed, obviously, to Yehoshua. That was that battle of Yericho. You can see the massiveness of these. The walls were 8 meters in diameter. That's 26 feet, and 8 meters tall, 13 feet thick. Wow. That's what we found. Part of it also, I don't forget to what height it went, but you have, these are called revetment walls or retaining walls, in which you have in the very bottom, you're going to have field stones, and then above it there was additional wall of mud bricks. So the height was really invincible. Nobody could get in. That's what Kenyon found when she got here. What's amazing is that, so impregnable. But what we do know is the story of Yehoshua, and Vayora ha'am vayitku b'shofrot, they blow the shofars, they shout, and when vayikashmo ha'am et kol shofar, and when the people heard the sound of the shofrot, vayiriu ha'am trua gedola, vatipol ha'choma tachtea, so the wall started to crumble and fall in. Right, we have different midrashim. What happens, right? Is it that they fall apart or that they sink straight into the ground? But there's a process that the walls are falling, and what she found in the excavations was, this is part of the walls that she uncovered. She found these large jugs. Here you see the top of the jug, that were thrown into the wall. It's almost as if there was breaches forming in the wall, and people grabbed whatever they could find and chucked it in to try to fill in the breaches in the wall. No other explanation, but they're sitting in the middle of the walls. So that's something to do with the story. All right, that's something to do with the fact that the walls are falling down. And in addition, this is amazing because everything's dating back 3,400 years to the time of Yehoshua, when Yehoshua was coming into Eretz Yisrael. What also was fascinating is that these jugs, some of the jugs she found were still full of grain that were just harvested from 3,400 years ago. That's pretty amazing. Okay? And in addition, she found a strata that was burnt. The city had been burnt. So what's amazing about the grain being in there is because when did Am Yisrael come into Eretz Yisrael?
Nisan.
Right, Yud Nisan. And then, right, Vayachanu b'nei Yisrael b'Gilgal, Vayasu et HaPesach, b'Arba'asar Yom L'Chodesh Be'erev, b'Arvot Yericho. They finally crossed over, and they do Pesach right next to Yericho before they go to battle. Vayochlu me'abur ha'aretz, and that's when they started eating Mimocharat HaPesach, the day after Pesach. Tet Zayin Nisan is when they start eating from that which is the produce of the land. Matzot, v'kolui, and roast popcorn. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. So wait a second, Tet Zayin, that makes sense because they're eating from the new crop on Tet Zayin. Why? They bought the Korban Omer. And then they were allowed to eat from the new crops. Vayishbot haman mimocharat b'achlam. That's when the man stops. Lo yod l'bnei Yisrael man vayuchlu mitfuat Eretz Canaan b'shana hi. And that's when they start eating from the tefuah. But this is taking place right before this is the harvest time period. This is now they go to battle Yericho. So it makes a lot of sense what was found in the excavations over here, that this was actually the Yericho that Yehoshua had conquered.
Where did they find all of this food?
Where do they find it? They found it, I guess, on the fields.
In other words, yeah, you have 3 million people who need to eat, they finished the month, and now they're coming, they haven't conquered the land yet.
So what probably is they're sitting in Arvot Yericho, they have control of a certain area already. In Yericho at this point, we say, right, that's the next, they're already closed up in their city. Sagor Misugeret, anybody remember that? It's a double lashon, something like that. Sagor Misugeret.
Yeah.
They're frightened. They see the Jewish people sitting right there. So there's in the past Jewish people, they could see them, but they're on the other side of the Jordan, on Arvot Moab. Comes Yud Nisan, we cross over. And that's also miraculous with the Jordan River. It's like flying, just piling up on itself, just going upwards, Neidachad. So at this point, they're closed into their city. They just, they had to send out. Everybody went out.
The question is whether they got it from the eastern side.
Possibly also.
So,
you're right. I don't know. It's not mentioned.
It's a lot of food.
They had a lot of people.
Yeah, you need a lot of food.
So get to work, right? That's what happens, which we'll see in a second. It's the time Yehoshua actually says that. Okay, Ve'a'ir safu b'eish. They burnt down Yericho, so it makes sense. And obviously, after we defeated Yericho, so that's why they find a strata that dates to the proper time, which is completely burnt. Like it's a level in the excavation of burnt areas. So it fits in so nicely. And then we get to the point, the famous nevuah by Yashpa Yehoshua be'etahi lemor. Yehoshua says, "Oror ish l'fnei Hashem asher yakum." Cursed is the person who gets up and builds the city again at Yericho, and when he's miyased to yiyastenu, when he sets the foundations, then his son, his oldest his firstborn will die. U'b'tziro yatziv telaten. If he continues to build, then when he puts up the doors, the ending mark of building the city, then his youngest will die, and this obviously comes up in Sefer Malachim. Okay, once that's mentioned, we start out with Yericho. Where should we go next? Where would you go next? Oh, that's because you read the book. But if you hadn't read the book, where would you go? Here's a suggestion. I'm right here in Yericho. What's over here? Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. What do you know about Yerushalayim? Obviously, the spiritual aspects of it. In Masechet Yuma, we say, Mishinital Ha'aron, that the Aron Kodesh was sitting on an Evan, on a stone. And this stone was already identified from the times of the Nevi'im Rishonim. V'shtiyah hayta dekreid. Even hashtiyah. Gavoa min ha'aretz shlosha etzba'ot. It was raised above the ground of the Kodesh Kodeshim by 3 etzba'ot. And what does it mean, even hashtiyah? What's the meaning of the word shtiyah? Not to drink, but mimena, says Masechet Yuma, mimena chushtat ha'olam. That from this stone, from this point, physically speaking, the That's where the physical creation begins. From this one spot, like the Big Bang, one spot, and around it is the world gets put together. That's why there's it makes sense if you want to be metaphysical. The idea that the tefillah, it's a connecting point between the physical realms and the spiritual realms. If you want to, you could get into the idea of tefillah coming across the world and coming towards the Makom HaMikdash and going up to Shamayim. But that's on a spiritual level. The Rambam is going to take a very this is on a physical level. On a spiritual level, what's the Rambam writing in his Perush Mishnayos? Makom ha'avoda, that's the place for the avodah in service in the Beit HaMikdash. Hu Yisod Olam, and that's the foundation of what keeps this world kicking. Says the Rambam afterwards. He says, "Shlosha devarim ha'olam made." The world exists because of Torah and avodah, meaning today tefillah, in those days the korbanot. Those are three pillars that keep the world going. And the Rambam is referring to this idea that being that this place is called Even Hushtat, it's a fundamental point. In other words, the base of Mikdash is a fundamental point in running and keeping this world going. Great. So that's what it is. I couldn't resist. Here you see this is, I don't know, I'm fine. I went into a couple stores. They said they're not in print anymore. Some of you might get them before the God. If you might remember, this is the Mishnayos of the Machon HaMikdash. And it was at a time when they first came in, Russian, the Soviet Union broke down. Russian artists came to this country and they didn't have work, so they used them to paint the Mishnayot, the pictures from the Mishnayot, instead of having those terrible out of scale sketch drawings that you find in the older ones. You have beautiful paintings. This is like the stuff that you find in the Machon HaMikdash. So this is the Even Hashdiyah. So you have such a spiritual point in Yerushalayim. Why not go to Yerushalayim? So also, as we discussed, we'll do this quickly, we talked about the fact that right over here is Washington, D.C. Why? Yeah, unifying moment. And in fact, take a look, Yerushalayim, where is it? In Shevet Binyamin, which is going to middle between, especially the main players, between Bnei Rachel, Menashe and Ephraim, and Bnei Leah, Yehuda. These are the contenders to the throne, right over here. In the middle you got Binyamin, who's the peacemaker, right? Binyamin's connected obviously to his nephews, Ephraim and Menashe, and he's connected to Yehuda because he saved him. Yehuda stepped forward and saved Binyamin. So Binyamin's the peacemaker. He's right over there. And Yerushalayim's going to be the era Shechubra Lo Yachdav. And on a practical level, I'm sure David's looking at the spiritual aspect. On a practical level, what's the very first move that David is going to do when he becomes king? Vayevo, right? Shaul has already died 7 years ago. But they're having a tough time now in the country with the Plishtim. David's been in Hebron for the last 7 years because why Hebron? It's the capital of Shevet Yehuda. He's from Yehuda. They accepted him as king. The rest of Am Yisrael still has it. And they asked him to become king over them. And David was in Hebron for 7 years, and then the rest of the time he's 33 years in Yerushalayim. Very first thing that David does is he takes the army that goes up to capture the capital, which is going to be the Jebusite city. Okay, so David understood, why don't we go to Yerushalayim? So somebody here said a good answer. What was it? So here's an answer from Yehuda Elitzur. Who's Yehuda Elitzur? Yehuda Elitzur is one of the very first of the Talmidei Chachamim who also recognized archaeologists and accepted by the archaeological community, which unfortunately a couple of generations ago they were very wary of anybody who's too firm or knowledgeable in Tanakh. Yehuda Elitzur has a number of great svarim. His son, Nibadul Mechaim L'chaim, Yoel Elitzur, has also numerous. He teaches in Mechila and in Herzog. Has great svarim. That's my Shabbos morning reading. It's a book called Makomba Parsha, I think it is. It's about places mentioned in the Parsha, the archaeology or historiography. So this is Yehuda Elitzur. So I'm going to tell you today, Shemomro, it's articles that were written by Yehuda Elitzur. You can see over here, here's Yehuda Elitzur in his youth. And who's this man over here? Yeah, with the fuzzy. So that's, believe it or not, Ben Gurion had a Chuk Tanakh that met on a weekly basis. Here's the Chuk Tanakh. That's why it's a fuzzy picture. It's the best I could do. All right? I'm not sure who the others are. Something to look into. Google it when you get home. But Yehuda Elitzur suggests the following, and this is going to be taking a Gemara cup and applying it. We've seen this, the idea of city of David as this peninsula of this land, and then we get up to Har Moriah with the Beis HaMikdash. Here we have Shlomo HaMelech's Beis HaMikdash, and you can see the valley of Kidron on this side, and the valley, the Tyropian Valley, or the Central Valley on this side, which is bordering and defining the borders of the city of David. Get a better look at it. You see very clearly how deep it is. We discussed this at length previous weeks. But if you're going to send an army, take a look. Here's I'm sitting on the walls of the old city looking down into the Kidron Valley. Here's our Zaytiv. Or, there you go. If you're down here, how high can you shoot an arrow straight upwards? It's limited. So this was an invincible city, and that's also why, impregnable city, and that's why, that was the story about David, how he got in. But the point is, if you're going to come and try to attack a city like this, what are you going to have to do? You're not going to be able to get to the walls. Usually you get to the wall, you compromise the wall in some fashion, the wall falls down, you get in and you fight. But you're not going to be able to do that in this case. It's too defended. What do? Put a siege around the city. At some point they're going to run out of food. But when you make up a siege, what does that mean? I'm going to have to get my own food. Where am I going to get it from? So I have to set up my supply trains and the supply lines, and I have to come up with water. And also I have to worry about the morale of the men. How long can they just sit around the city over here? There's a lot involved in making a siege. And also the question then becomes, what have you gained? So I'm going to pick off Yerushalayim. That's true. Could be that Yerushalayim is not ready. This I heard from Rabbi Levi, Yitzchak Levi from the Gush, about that. It could be that it's not time for us to have the Mikdash. It's when David chooses that Makom. Hashem doesn't say Yerushalayim explicitly. So there's a lot of reasons why Yehoshua strategically he's not going to gain all that much from coming to Yerushalayim. Instead, what he's going to decide is go to the eye. And the question is why? What does he gain strategically? So look at this. So Yehoshua says, "Yishlach Yehoshua Anashim min Yericho," to the eye, which is next to a place called Beit Aven, and it's east of Beit El. And he says, go up and check out the eye. And without getting into the story, but the second battle will beat the eye. So that's going to be where? I have Yericho right over here. We're not going to go to Yerushalayim. Instead, where am I going to go? Someplace around near Beit Aven, near Beit El. It's not clear till today where the eye is. The eye, this is an area that's near Beit El and near Ramallah, near Beit El, and this is the city of the eye. And it was what they think is the eye. The eye was first excavated in the 1830s by a fellow named, who was around here in the 1830s, Edward Robinson, American excavator, who's famously, what's named after him? The Robinson's Arch. So he was here, he took a look at this. This is called Khirbat Atel, all right, in Arabic. And he found that he didn't do like great excavations. He wasn't sure if it's going to be this mountain or if it's going to be something next to it, which is called Khirbat Chain, which sounds a little bit like the eye. And it wasn't until the 1930s that they did excavations. They actually did find areas that you had like some structures, let's get a better picture, some structures that date back far, and this is actually something that was large enough to have been some kind of a palace or an administrative area. However, the thing is that they did find is that there was no, pot shards that they found went back to the year 2200 BCE. And we usually date Yehoshua to about 1400 BCE. So there's a problem. We don't know exactly where the eye is. It's in this area. There's also, what happens to the eye? What happens to the eye eventually? He burns it down. Yehoshua burns down the eye. And this nice picture, again, I don't know the Doré, I don't know how to pronounce it, Gustave Doré. So Joshua, here's the city of Ai going up in smoke. So I was burnt. We didn't find any burnt strata on the excavations. So it's hard to say. Yoel Elitzur thinks that what was mentioned, Beit Oven, that's actually the eye, and that this might have been some city that was close to it, or it could be that the eye was next to Beit Oven, is not that large. The area that they excavated was large. And the problem is that it becomes larger. The amount that they found was larger than the city of Givon. And Givon, as we know, again, it's just a matter of reading the Psukim. Read the Psukim, it says that the Givonite, they went and they made peace. Remember that? They were the ones, their reaction was, let's make peace with the Jewish people. And therefore the rest of the nations, they got very frightened. Because Givon was an Ir Gedolah, it was a very large city. Now, if this large power is making peace with the Jews, that doesn't leave much hope for the rest of them to retain their independence. So that's why they were very upset. But the city of Givon is Ka'achat Arei HaMamlecha V'chihi Gedolah Min Ha'ai, larger than the eye. Now, the area that they thought might be the eye of Atel is larger than Givon. So Yoel Itzor says that it, but it's in that area. Okay, why to go to the eye though? That's the question. Why are we going to the eye? So here's his svara, big chiddush. Let's take a look at the country. We've seen this a number of times, right? We know you come in from the Mediterranean, you have the Chof, you have this spine of mountains that goes to the middle of the country, all along here, and in between the coast and the mountains, you're going to have the lowlands, which is called the Shvela. That's where I live, that's what Beit Shemesh is. Okay. This whole area, what do we say? It's all filled with mountains. And which Shevet is that? It's going to be Yehuda. In other words, we have Harei Yehuda, Harei Binyamin, Harei Ephraim, and Harei Menashe. That's what's in the middle of the country. Okay, so what do we know about this area? And again, this is taking a Gemara head, a Gemara cup, and applying it to reading the Psukim. Okay, again, you see how it matches up. This area matches up with this area, Menashe and Ephraim. All right? Now, Sefer Yehoshua, Vayidabru b'nei Yosef, Menashe and Ephraim to Yehoshua, and this is in Perek Yud Zayin when we're starting to parcel out the lands. Madua natata li nachala goral echad v'chevel echad. We got two shvatim coming. You said you gave us only one nachala. Vani Amrav, we're a great nation. They're very populous. Lost. Okay, a lot of people. I don't share. After 40 years in the country, you start losing. Do you notice that? Sometimes you lose your English a little bit. Maybe not. You guys are smart. I don't know. Ad kober chani Hashem. God gave me a blessing. Because we know, right? What was it about? Ben Parat Yosef, Noah, and Hara. They grew like Vayomer Alehem Yehoshua. What's your problem? Imam Ravata, you're such a populous nation or shvatim. Aleilecha hayara. Go up to the forest. The mountains had forests on them. Go up to the forest on the mountains. Ubereisa l'chasham. And then go cut down the forest. Be'eretz haprizi v'arifaim ki atz l'cha har Ephraim. It's right there for you, the Harei Ephraim. Vayomer b'nei Yosef lo yimetzeh lanu ahar. Right? It's too hard. We can't get up to the mountains. And they have Rechav Barzel to the Canaanites that are sitting in the Emek Yisrael. Then near Beit Shan. So Yehoshua says to Beit Yosef, Ephraim and Menashe. They say, look, I'm Ravata, you're great, a lot of people. B'kol Gadolach. You have so much strength. Lo yelecha goral echad. It's not one lot. It's not one area. Ki har yelach. Right? Because you have mountains. Ki yarhu, and it has forests. Ubereso, and you should clear them off. Get to work. Cut down the forest. Vayelecha l'totzotav. You will be able to have the mountains, and you'll be able to conquer the Canaanites, even if they do have Rechav Barzel. What's he saying to them? It's filled with forests, so go up and take down the forest. Wait a second. Take down the forests? Yeah, then you have plenty of land. But wait, who's living in those forests? The Canaanites are living in the valley, Beit Shan, Emek Yisrael. Who's living in the forest? Nobody. It's forests. Nobody's living in the forests. So wait, if I go up and conquer the eye, which seems to be next to the forest, it is in the mountains, what did I just gain? I just conquered that whole area. There's nobody around that. I conquer Ai, which is a major stronghold right in the middle, and then everything around it becomes part of me. Meaning, let's go travel to the area. Let's go travel to Menashe. I'm now looking at Shomron. This is the Shomron area. Beautiful mountains, okay? A lot of it we lost over the millennia that we were in here. I'm now looking at the Tal Menashe. founded in the 1990s. It happened to have a rainbow. But this is the area we're talking about in the Shomron. This I found this morning. I threw it in. I couldn't resist. It's called Ramat Menashe. There's a Ramot Menashe. There's a park. Beautiful. Beautiful. Nice forests, right? Nice forests. This I couldn't resist also. It's nothing to do. But Rakefet season is around now. This is also Ramot Menashe. Kolaniot, Ramot Menashe. But it's in the forest over there. And if you actually, it's a blurry picture, but the best I could do to be able to illustrate to us the area, what it should look like. If it hadn't for millennia, nobody lived here and the trees wouldn't have been cut down. But the area around Tal Menashe looks like this. Or it's forested. It's got the whole thing just runs with forest and there's nobody living here. Same thing back in the time of Yehoshua. So what happens if you take over the eye and the area around it? Got the eye, and then that's going to give me the area around it. Boom. I just took over the whole middle of the country. What's every one of us, right? Every layman knows one klal in military strategy. What's the one klal that we all know?
Get the high ground.
Get the high ground. Okay, we know two klals. What's the next one? If any players of Stratego, right? Anybody, what is it? Divide. So I got the middle of the country. I just divided the country. It means the next step is going to be, as we saw, the Northern Alliance and the Southern Alliance. But that's it. I already got the middle of the country. So that's the military strategy of Yehoshua ben Nun in this part, in the beginning. And it's not written there, but says with Yehuda Elitzor. If you just read the Psukim, you'll figure out exactly what Yehoshua was trying to accomplish. Let's keep going. So now what happens next in the story? Right after this, Yehoshua goes down towards there's the battle with the northern kingdom, and now he's going to go towards the south. The Northern Alliance is finished. We're now going to go, it's only 11 psukim, and now we're going to go towards the Southern Alliance. And this is what's written as far as the battle with the Southern Alliance. It's a large area. He goes to Makeda. That's a city. At Makeda, he goes there. Lakad Yehoshua Bayomahu. He destroys them. Vayakel lefi cherev et malka hechrim otam. Destroys everything in the city of Makeda. And he does this kasher salam melech Yericho, the same as he did to Yericho. From there, Vayavar Yehoshua v'chol Yisrael imam mimakeda Livna. They go to a place called Livna. They battle with them, and they do the same thing to them as was done to Melech Yericho. Got it. From Livna, we go to Lachish, and again the same thing. They destroy that. The next battle that's mentioned is they go to a place called Eglon. From Melachish, they go to Eglon. All right, and they destroy Eglon, famous to us from Sefer Shoftim. And then Yehoshua and everyone with him goes from Eglon to Hebron. Yefeh. When we get to Hebron, they conquer it and they destroy it with sword and the king. And all of a sudden, what appears is the Et Kol Oreha and all of the cities that surround Hebron. And from Hebron, we're going to go to Devir. And they're going to destroy Devir and Ve'et Kol Ored, all the cities that surround Devir. As first we just mentioned these are like one-alones. We mentioned these cities. Then we mentioned Hebron and all the cities around it, and Divra and all the cities around it. Here's the question, okay? If I jump ahead and say for Yehoshua, 5 prakim, I'm going to get to the listings of all the different nachlot, every tribe, what they got is their lots. It's about 3 prakim worth. And they list off the boundaries. Some of it we recognize, right? Some of it we don't. When you get to Yehoshua, when you get to the Nachla of Yehuda, look what happens. When you get into the mountains, the southern hills, the mountains of Yehuda, Hare Yehuda, Bahar, they start listing off the cities. Okay? And around Devir, right? Kiryat Sanahi, Devir, it's a major city, and etc., cities. Orim Achat Esrei. I have how many? 11 cities. That's Devir. When you say Devir and all the cities, that's 11 cities. And then we continue moving up from the south on the mountains. I'm moving further up, and I get to Beit Tapuach and Afeka, Kiryat Abra, Hebron. And along with Hebron comes the cities, Tesha, 9. So how much is that? 11 plus 9? I'm up to 20. Good. I'm going to go then in this area, Ma'on, Carmel. Ma'on exists today. Carmel, Vazif, Utah, I don't know, Yisrael. There's more than one Yisrael in the country. So Noach we have today, right? And then we finally get up to this area of Hebron and its cities is what? Another 10. So we're up to 30. And then Chalchul, Beit Sur, right? Karmei Sur, going towards the Gush. And I have another 6. So 36 cities. So this is Professor Elitzor's question. Okay? I got 36 cities, which is represented just by saying Hebron, Tvir, and all the cities around it. I got another 4 cities that I had mentioned. That was Makeda and Lachish and Livna and Eglon. So Sachal Kol, I mentioned 6 cities in the Battle of the South. But I'm dealing with 40 cities. So the obvious question becomes, why these? Don't mention any cities. Why are you picking out specifically first 4 cities and then afterwards you jump up to the hills, Hebron and Devir, and you include all those 36 cities into those 2 of Hebron and Devir? Why these 6 cities? So again, Yehoshua is a Navi. It's not meant to be a history book, but if you read between the lines, you'll see that they're telling you, Yehoshua wrote his Sefer. So the commander of the army must have been slipping in, what he was thinking when he went to battle. And this is the explanation according to Professor Elitzor. So we talked about this in the past, that I have 2 empires at this time. I got the empire here of Egypt, and I got Mesopotamia, so I got Bavel, and I'm going to have Aram, and Ashur from over here. There's also in Turkey, there's the Hittites. But if I'm going to have trade between these 2, where's the trade going to run? Up the coast, via Maris, here's Haifa. And I'm going to cut across at some point. Now we discussed this at length with the gates of Shlomo, so I'm just going to mention it. Like if I'm coming up the coast, I'm going to have to cut across the country to get to Damascus and on to Mesopotamia. Where am I going to cut across the coast? I'm going to have to find the mountain passes. Now I'm going through this. Like again, we've seen this, and I'm just going to skip through it quickly. But you might remember this is right. That was the surprise visit. We jumped overseas, even though El Al's only the only one flying. But we jumped over to the Delaware Water Gap. You see the break in the mountains. Usually there's water over there. Then there's a highway. It's easier to plan. Here we got the train. This is all the Delaware Water Gap. We jumped over to Shenandoah. Right? Everybody's living in the valley in between. Okay, so I'm just running through this. We got the idea because of time, and also we've done this before. If I'm coming up the coast, the way to get through the mountains, I could either go over here, Nachal Iran, right? Vadi, what do we say? Vadi Aran? Is that what we say? This is Highway 65. I'm going to go right through here, through the mountain pass, get past Megiddo and enter into Emek Yisrael, continue on 65 past Afula till I get to Tiberia. Or I could go further north, and then there's another break right over here, Zichron Yaakov and Pharades that goes right by. This is Highway 70. Right? These are the major roads. They've always been since the beginning of time. If I want to get into the mountains, I have a couple of options also. Right? There's breaks between the mountains, that in mountain passes that are going to take me into the mountain area. Usually these not only are the roads over here, but we'll find that's where the water is running as well. So if like over here, Modi'in, this is going to be, right here is going to be Highway 1. That's where I live, right over here, in Natbag. And we're going to have Highway 1 running up Nachal Kisalon, Nachal Sorek. You have these famous Nachal Eilah, Nachal Lachish. Let's go visit these areas. Let's go visit the 4 cities that had been mentioned over here as part of the battle. Okay, 4 cities. So what are we going to look at? Again, Livna, Lachish, Eglon, and Makeda. Let's try to identify, based upon archaeology of today, we know 3 out of the 4. Okay, so this also is Highway 1. We've done this before. Highway 1, you can see very clearly goes between the mountain pass, and we're going to scoot through this. We talked about the battle for Yerushalayim. That if you own the mountain pass, then you control everything. You could stop the transportation. You could stop the traffic going up into the city. Okay? I'm scooting past this one because we've done it. And we talked about Bab El Wad and the we lost a quarter of the men and women in 48. Actually, then it really was true. It wasn't just a cliche. And the Pamachnikim on the Battle of Yerushalayim. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to head first over here. And again, this is just another example. I'm here in Megiddo. If I'm in Megiddo, what do I control? Highway 65. As it heads into Emek Yisrael till I get to Har Tabor on the other side. So, let's begin. We're going to first head over here to Nachal Ha'elah. Nachal Ha'elah, familiar? Anybody traveled over there, Nachal Ha'elah? Yeah. Look familiar? That's where you have the satellite dishes. Nachal Ha'elah, famous from also Tel Azeka, the battle of David and Goliath. It happens in Nachal Ha'elah, leads up into the Gush. The road will lead up over here. You pass the satellite dishes, turn left, you get up into the Gush. Okay? What they have found, this is going to be, we're looking at the city of Livna. Livna means white, and in Arabic, if you have a place called Tel Safi. Safi means the white Tel. And I'm sure that the archaeologists do better than that, but Tel Safi is always been identified as Livna. It's close to, nowadays it's close to a place called Kfar Menachem. It's next to Nachal Ha'elah. And this is a little bit of what it looks like. Okay, it's just rocks to us. That's not important for us right now. But what it is sitting on the highway. Nachal Ha'elah, that's where the highway runs until today. It takes you up to the Gush. So it means if I want to get up over here into the mountains, over here next to Yerushalayim, this is like near the Beit Lechem area, and over here this is Kfar Menachem, so there's a highway. You can actually see there's a little white line, but that's where it runs, right over here. That's the highways. I'll tell you what highways it is. If I start at Beit Lechem and I go on Highway 375, and I take it, and it's going to take me onto 383, and it's going to eventually lead me towards Highway 40, which is going to take me into Ashdod. That's where this Nachal runs, Nachal Ha'elah. It's actually the northern tributary of Nachal Lachish. That's from the beginning of time. This is where the road runs. Just nowadays, we just put down asphalt and gave it numbers. We think that Livna is right around over here. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's put that in our back burner. Let's keep moving, and we're going to go. Let's go down over here to Nachal Lachish. Lachish is famous, right? Lachish. Everyone's been to Lachish or seen Lachish. Lachish still the remnants of it. Lachish is a major city. Remember, major city during Bayit Rishon, very heavily fortified, and was conquered by Sancherib Melech Ashur. Sancherib comes in, Sancherib comes in, destroys Lachish, and it was once Lachish was down, then he comes and he surrounds Yerushalayim, and that's the story with Chizkiyahu. And I owe that one. I didn't get to it, but we still get to that one. But anyway. Look at this. The fortifications are still there because they were so massive, right? The gates, going into the gates of the city, it's still there. They've redone it since during COVID. I haven't gotten a chance yet to be there. But this goes back to 2,700 years ago. The ramp, right? This is the ramp that's built by the Assyrians to get in. In the palace in Nineveh, on Sancherib's palace, they have the relief over here that of the Assyrian army shooting, and there's some places it's worse. They basically spears on Jewish soldiers. That's why there was such a fright. That gets to the story again of Yerushalayim and Chizkiyahu. Here's in the relief over there. You got Sancherib sitting on his throne. Sancherib, the mighty king of the country of Assyria, sitting on, this is written on the relief, sitting on the throne of judgment before or at the entrance of the city of Lachish, giving permission for its slaughter. All right, this is in Nineveh. So we know about Lachish. Lachish was a major city. It was always a major city. Why? Because it's sitting on Nachal Lachish. It's sitting on the entrance into the mountains. All right, it's going to take us from Nachal Lachish. Is going to take us from Hebron to Gat, and afterwards down towards Ashkelon. Same place, same major cities that control the entrance to the Wadi, same roads. It's just that now it has asphalt and a number. Okay, where's that going to be? This is called highway. You come out of Kiryat Arba, Hebron, you make a left turn onto Highway 35. It's going to take you straight down past You get down over here to Telem, Adula. You're going to get to Nechusha, Kiryat Gat, Beit Guvrin. That's that road. If you're coming out over here right before the highway drops, that's where my daughter lives. I couldn't resist. My grandkids. My grandkids, that's their backyard. They live in Telem. Telem is next to Adura. It's right before the Hebron, the western Hebron hills just drop straight down into Tarkomia. And that's the bat mitzvah girl. This is 2 years ago. But when I have these pictures, why? It's because you could... All right, this one's better. That's the gingy. Okay? My son-in-law has a chakira. Are gingis by nature crazy? Or is it that the world thinks they're crazy and therefore it makes them crazy? All right, it's nurture or nature. That's the question. All right? But they're crazy. He's gotten through the Paw Patrol underwear, and then he got into, what was the next one? I don't know. Anyway, underwear is important at that age. So, anyway, let's go. So why did I give this picture? Because you could see that right past their house, their backyard, it drops down. This is Tachkumiyah. On a serious note, we could talk about like what they had a konenut over there for the entire since October. But you could see the whole coastal plain is below them. Going from Aza all the way up to, I think, Rishon, they get to see it from their backyard. It's amazing. Baruch Hashem. Okay? Now, Nachal, this is going to be Nachal Lachish. It's running pretty, all the time. And, wait a second. Did I just jump? I jumped a little bit. Why did I jump? I don't know. But what we do is over here, that's not going to be that. I wanted to show you that, okay, so we know where this highway goes. It was a little bit southern. The first highway we saw went from Beit Lechem down towards the Ashdod area. Okay, and this is from Ashkelon up here. Let's go ahead. Now we're jumping over to Nachal Shikma. It's also, these are famous Nachal Shikma. Okay, what we have to identify is exactly where is Eglon. If I go to Nachal Shikma, and this is the tributaries, you have Zikim, that's where I did my basic training in the sand. And Nachal Shikma runs all the way up along here. Lachish is over here. It's a little bit more south. This one's a little bit more south. And again, the highway is going to be someplace from Aza up towards Beit Guvrin, Beseder, Evanti. Today what's been identified as Eglon, and Eglon again is famous from the, where is it famous from? Ehud, right? It's Melech Eglon that he goes to. Some people identify Eglon as being Gat, one of the pentapolis of the Philistine, of the Plishtim. So this is the mountain, right? They've done excavations. For us right now, it's a bunch of pile of rocks. But this is the area, right? You're going to have Nachal Shikma. It comes from south of Ashkelon, right before Az. It's Zikim. Kibbutz Zikim, it's going to run in like that. Right south of Hebron. Gets to this area. Oh, so this is very good. So what are we showing over here? All right? We've done, up until now, we've done Lachish, where it is. We've done Eglon. We've done Livne, and then we saw Lachish is here, and Eglon's over here. They're all running along the side of the mountains, and they're sitting on major tributaries, which means highways that lead up into the mountains. The one that we didn't identify is the first one, Makeda. Makeda. Where's Makeda going to be? So we don't know. Till today we don't know. However, what they do think is, and this is his suggestion, Professor Elitzor, we talked about Nachal Lachish, we talked about Nachal Eilah. What didn't we speak about, which is oh so important as far as a lead into the middle of the country? Nachal Sorek. Nachal Sorek, I say that to you, what comes to your mind? It's famous for the stalactite caves. Right, still called Sorek. Excellent, right? It goes past it. What goes past it? Towards Beit Shemesh. Here's Nachal Sorek. Remember this? Who had, I don't know if it's still running. Is it still running? Down to, they still, a couple of times a day, down from Yerushalayim to Beit Shemesh. I think the Beit Shemesh people still take it. The old tracks. Remember, look at this. The mountains come right here, come down over here. The Nachal's very, very narrow. The train was built through Nachal Sorek. And that was what it was until the new train. All right? When was this built? Remember that? 1892. Wow. It was one of those last gasps of the Ottoman Empire. They said we're going to build a train that goes from Tel Aviv up to Yerushalayim. Cut down the travel by hours. It used to be by donkey to get up the hills. Make it by train. And then they said, look, because why? Also the same thing up in Haifa. That's when they built the train that goes across Emek Yisrael. Beit Yehoshua, Haifa, Beit Yehoshua up to Beit Shan. Why? Because people coming across the Mediterranean, Arabs, Muslims coming across the Mediterranean could come to the ports in Israel and then continue on, eventually get to Damascus and take the Hajj railway down towards Mecca. So it's like they were like, they're flexing their muscles because they want to show that they're the world leader of the Muslim world. Hasn't changed until today. Erdogan with his erratic behavior is not erratic at all. He knows exactly what he's doing. But it's kavod. It's kavod, right? Turkey is the premier Arab country, and that's why he's always like flexing his muscles. So this is the building still from 1892. This is the first station. Why do we call it today Tachna Rishonah?
When did Turkey become Arab?
I'm sorry, not Arab. My mistake. Muslim. It slipped. Ottomans. Yeah, sorry. Arabs are from the Saudi. You're right. Muslim. Okay, but yeah. Okay, now 1892 Tachna Rishonah. Tel Aviv also has their Tachna Rishonah. Right, that's on the other side. Now this I couldn't help, but this is great. Jerusalem. This is like I'm not sure when this is from. It's sometime at the very beginning. I think it's like the 1890s. Is that great? Wow. Look at this one. You notice anything in the background? Yeah, the inauguration. This is 1892, inauguration. Wow. Very, very cool. Everyone who came out, it's an amazing thing. Middle East, train. You're changing the whole fabric of society over here. Yerushalayim obviously is going to gain from it. And throughout the history, still in the front of the building, what do we see over here? British. What do we see over here? None other than Herbert. Herbert, with a Brooklyn accent. Herbert Samuel, the commissioner, the high commissioner, Jewish high commissioner, right? He was given, I think, before when he came and when he left, I think, and Shabbos Nachamu. And in those days, what was like the national, the building, the pride of the nation, the Beit Knesset HaChorva. Right?
Oh, right.
So they gave him an aliyah. They gave him Shabbos Nachamu. He got the aliyah. So when he was saying the Haftorah, it comes up to Uva Moshav. How's it go? Ala David. What? I don't have a. Thank you very, very much. In the Haftorah, we're talking about David and Melech, and they say Al Kiso Lo Yeshev Zar. On his seat of David, there shouldn't be a Zar, it's somebody else. In other words, he shouldn't have anybody from outside Shevet Yehuda. So they say the story is that Rav Kook got up and repeated it because they were sad to see him go. He was a Jewish fellow. He had a connection to the tradition. Who's standing next to him? If you're going to have any general standing next to Herbert, what?
Allenby.
Obviously, it's going to be Allenby. This is the caravan. There's a number to it. It was famous. Caravan something, number 98 or something. It was the British, it was official. It was like, first class. Okay. They even have over here, you can't really see it, it's a Sefer Torah they're bringing in. It's a happening thing. This is the trains that were set up in Palestine. All right, coming from Haifa down south, but this is going to be from Jaffa up into Yerushalayim. Okay. Why is that important? The train obviously runs along Nachal Sorek. Okay, running along Nachal Sorek. I come from Yerushalayim. You can see like through the line, Nachal Sorek, and eventually it's going to get out to Jaffa. If Makeda assumes, Nachal Sorek is a major entranceway, Vadi Pass, Mountain Pass, says Professor Elitzur, Makeda should be someplace along here. This is conjecture. 3 out of the 4 we know, he's assuming Makeda is someplace over here. So by identifying these cities mentioned, there's only 4 cities, besides Hebron and Devir, and the cities around it, which is actually the areas of Shevet Yehuda. The only other 4 cities mentioned in this whole battle is going to be Makeda, Livne, Lachish, and Eglon. Oh, so let's put those together. Again, Makeda, right? And then we're going to go down to Livne, Lachish, and Eglon. In other words, they're all laying along the lowlands, and they're all sitting on the entrance into the mountain area, right? Lachish, Ela, Sorek. In other words, what did we say? What do you need these passes for? To be able to get up into the mountains, to cross over the country. I mean, what happens? What did we say? We said Megiddo, Chatzor. We talked about this one, Gezer. These were powerful cities. Why? Because if you control the mountain pass, what do you get? You get taxes. And then you can get more chariots like Hatzor. And then what happens? Also, you control the militarily. You control what's going through. What happens if I pick off the entrances here, 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 and here? I just sealed off what? All the entrances to this whole area. In other words, to the Southern Alliance. In other words, if you just put it in like this, if I connect the dots, what I've just done is control this area. These guys, let's put in what we won in the previous battle. The eye. I got the middle of the country, then I just rolled down over here. It doesn't say it Meforsh, but if you read between the lines and you do a couple of inferences, what do you basically see? Yehoshua comes down over here. What happened to these guys? Totally isolated. They can't get reinforcements from anywhere. They're basically cut off, and then it's just a matter of time. So if you read properly the psukim, you could actually come up with a lot of information that's not really there in front of you, but use a good Jewish cup over here, and what you're going to get, what you're going to get is that this is going to be the military strategy, possibly, of Yehoshua ben Nun. Unbelievable, being able to do those inferences. And then right after this, right, in the Perkid Aleph, Vayikach Yehoshua et kol haaretz, he takes the entire land as Hashem had told in Moshe, and it was given to Yehoshua, the Nachla, va'aretz shakta milchama. It's successful, the battle, and the land becomes quiet, and from battles, and then, you move on to Sefer Shoftim with its challenges. I like to always finish up with a little bit of inspiration. So, we talked about that there's the Tachana Rishona. Where are we at over here? This is much flatter than Yerushalayim. Can't make it out. Here's got some of the train boxes, right? The trains. This is Tachana Rishona in Jaffa. Yeah, that's what Jaffa looked like in those days. Nothing's built over here. 1892. We don't even have Tel Aviv until 1909. They're only living up on top on the hill of Jaffa. It's a little bit, and this is, so it's just built out in the middle of nowhere. It's on the desert. There you go, Jaffa. This is what it looked like originally. This is when they're finishing it up. The construction, 1892. All right. Nowadays, what do we got? Baruch Hashem, same building, but we got the Mitcham Harishon, Mitcham HaTachana out there in Tel Aviv, and over here, that's what it looks like with the Jaffa. They added on. And in Yerushalayim Yer Kodesh, this building from 1892, as we all know, still has the original train tracks there in the middle, but the place is beautiful and colorful and plentiful and a happy place. And unlike back when it was built, but today, because of Chazdei Hashem and the miracles that we've witnessed, it's filled with Jews appreciating the plenty and the simcha that we have in the Tachana Rishona. V'shiyeh mukuyam l'kayem banu, v'shiyeh mukuyam od yoter, ki nicham Hashem Tzion, nikam chochov v'seha. Hashem bayasim midbar ke'Eden, He makes her wilderness like Eden. There's a lot of plenty. The desert's like the Garden of Hashem. Joy and gladness shall be found there. Thanksgiving and the voice of melody. And there you go. Thank you. Was that fun? Oh yeah? I remember the 70s.
It's changed. More than 10 something.